Mary Cecilia, well, Bellotti, my married name. And I was born April the 15th, 1919. Oh yeah, I was born my future godparents, they lived on Hathaway Street in New Bedford, and that's where I was born, 122 Hathaway Street, on the dining room table. Of course, I was told this. I don't remember. Yeah. I'll be 100 this coming April the 15th. Income tax day. I was in a restaurant one day, and for some reason, the way we were talking there, I said to the waitress, how old do you think I am? And she said, 75. I said, that's my daughter's age. So that made me feel good. My father was German, French, Bohemian, and my mother English and Scots. So I'm a mongrel. Well, my parents, they separated, I think when I was I was a baby when they separated. My mother went to New York and my father went to Philadelphia to work and live with relatives there. And my mother put me on a farm in Berkeley. So I considered them my foster parents. And their name was Susan and Arthur Davis. They were on a farm. And of course I was brought up with the chickens and a cow and a horse.
What was the horse's name?
Huh?
What was the horse?
Bessie.
Bessie?
Yeah.
Nice looking horse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a bicycle. Yeah, with no tires.
So you just rode on the rims.
I was told about that. That's when my mother was taking me to the farm. It was snowing, but we had to go by train to Berkeley, and then I always called him Pa Davis, was at the depot with the horse and buggy. But what happened? The buggy tipped over in the snow. Yeah. On the way, back to the farmhouse. But of course I wouldn't remember that because I was only an infant. Well, see, I was only there for 4 years, but I did go frequently, because my mother and father had gotten back together. And my father was building hen houses for them, see, a lot of this was told to me rather than me realizing it. And when I was 4, I went with my mother to England. She was involved with the labor union. She was a politician. Then, of course, I have the fly that's on my mother. The fly that's always around. And I tell the kids that my mother knew what was going on because she would come back as a fly. But then my mother said that when she died, she wanted to be cremated and flushed down the toilet. So that when I see a fly, that's my mother. But there ain't been flies around lately, and they're a nuisance. I can't catch them. He built a house, and he was good at that. Although he was a loom fixer, worked in the textile business. He was good at carpentry.
built a loom that we donated.
To the textile school. Well,
They have it in glass. It's an actual working loom.
Working loom still.
yeah,
Wow.
he built
I
it.
don't see much of.
Oh, you should have seen the horse he made. My father eventually built a toilet the back of the house, on the house, where the hallway was. He made a room for.
Did your father like to invent things?
Oh yeah, he.
Like
Well,
they
I don't
never
know
thought-
about anybody going, wow, but my father invented a protractor for Marie. She had a, what you call it, not a make assist, but she had an operation on her leg. And it was a matter of it being like this and having to come out like this. So my father made a protractor for her, so she could do it with that.
Yeah, remember how Graham used to call Grandpa? You.
Oh, my mother.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She never called him by his name. Yeah, you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she had a loud, like shrilling.
She had a beautiful voice, though. She could sing. Yeah, especially Danny Boy. Oh, Danny Boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The what? Dear. All the birds are dying. It's you who must go and I must bide. Oh, yeah. I know. I'd wait for her to get to a point where she had to sing a high note, and I would sing the high note for her. St. Killian's.
St. Killian's?
Yeah, Catholic school. And then I went to Holy Family, high school for 1 year, and I wasn't doing too well. And at the time, it was, you paid a tuition there. And my mother said, no, and I went to vocational school where I really did well there. I designed the motto that they have. The first one. Yeah. See, he had. The thing was, when I went to Holy Family, I went to a continuation school for a few days before I got into the vocational school, and evidently there was a mistake, and I went to vocational. I graduated in 3 years. I didn't go the 4 years, which I should have, repeated the year that I had spent at Holy Family. My husband, on the other hand, he left the high school in New Bedford on the second year, so he graduated the year after me. He had to go the 4 years. Well, that was only a half a day, but I had no intention of going, but this other girl, her name was Bernice Parker. She lived up on the boulevard. The one that she had asked to go couldn't make it, and so she asked me if I would go. So I didn't know what the hell, what it was all about anyway. So there was 2 boys, and one was Bud Thomas. I can't think of the other boys, the one that I sat with, the driver. But we were going to Boston for something, but it was, what day was it?
Bunker Hill Day.
Bunker Hill Day, and the place was closed, so it was a wasted trip, really. But somebody had blabbed at school, and of course the principal, she took me home to tell my mother, because I faked the following day, so I would have a letter from my mother to the school that I was sick. But I don't know what happened, but and that's when the 3 years come up, and they couldn't do anything about it because my grades were okay.
What year did you graduate?
37. Yeah, 1937. Oh, I like swimming. Yeah, I like the water. Yeah. In Fairhaven, the beach there.
Fort Phoenix?
Fort Phoenix, yeah. And then I remember swimming from Fort Phoenix across to Sconnecut Neck. That I remember. But and then I think, and I'm not even sure if someone else was with me, and then had to walk back on the shore, not swim back.
How about the Nash Road Pond?
Nash Road Pond? Oh, you can't even see it now when you go by because of all the shrubbery. Yeah, I used to go skating there all the time. I'd skate from my house down Nash Road up to the pond. And they had a shed there that you could go in and warm up and or take your shoes off and put your skates on. You'd leave your shoes there at the railroad crossing. Yeah.
And they fished there too, didn't they?
What?
They went fishing there?
Yeah. Oh, that's where I got a fish hook in my ear. I was going by and I happened to turn, and this boy went, with his fishing rod, and when he went like this, he had hooked my ear. And of course my mother was mad as hell because the neighbor took me to the doctor, and it cost $2 for them to take the... Yeah, I went to Swain School briefly. The textile school.
Textile school.
Yeah. No, that was, it wasn't drawing, it was the sewing machines. Well, they had, in those days, they were, there was, the tub, you had to have a kettle, to warm the water to put in, because there was no, warm water from the, no shower. And that was, but it was only once a week, and they both, washed in the same water. Oh, on the farm, there was no toilet in the house. You had to go out, and we'd have to, well, I'm not exaggerating. I bet where those trees are over there, that's where you'd have to go to get to the two. We had a double, the outhouse. But it was around on the other side of the barn. Well, the first washing machine, you didn't have a dryer, but you had a wringer that you put it through to get the water out. It's like a a round thing, but like, you know, long and with a handle. And when you finish washing, you put the garment or whatever and bring it out that way, and then hang it up in the cellar or outdoors.
What was the Depression like?
Oh, that was good because we had to go and you know, get food at in fact, it was near Brookline Park where we went for food. Well, my father was worked in Pawtucket, and it didn't affect them as much as other people because he had a job, you know. But while he worked there, my mother and I lived on Nash Road in the three family. And he'd come home, you know, on the weekend. There was something happened, and I was crying. And he used to work in the school, you know, I guess cleaning the floors and that. And that's how I met him, on the stairway at vocational school. And I was crying. I don't know.
How did Dad used to go and visit you?
Oh, on roller skates. Yeah, and he lived in Holy Acre. The Italian, you know, what you call it, section of the city. It was like all Italians.
Yeah.
And that's where the name come. They got the name. Yeah. Oh yeah, on William Street, the Chinamans. Yeah, 5 cents for a sandwich.
How about when you used to go to the movies?
Oh yeah, I would buy my ticket because I would get it at a you know, the what you call it, price. I wasn't an adult until they finally found out and said, look, if you're old enough to have a, you know, a date, you're old enough to pay full price. Oh, that's another thing too. It wasn't, you know, where he got down on his knee and proposed. You know where the car barn is in New Bedford? All right. Diagonally, there was like a little drugstore on the corner, and he was parked there with me in the front seat and him driving, my mother in the back seat. And he asked my mother if he could marry me. That was the proposal. No, he had the ring. Yeah. But his sister helped him pick that out. Oh, don't ask me about that. Oh my God, my honeymoon and everything. Oh, it's a zush. June 7th, 1941. My sister-in-law was the bridesmaid. And I had a cousin from New York that was one of the bridesmaids. And then I had Peter was the best man.
I had Bessie. Yeah.
Oh, and Bessie, yeah. My best man was a neighbor of my husband's.
What was your wedding reception?
It was up in on a third floor in some I can't think of the Eagles. I don't know. I think Eagles was in the front part of the building, but there was another name. I don't know if it was the Labor Union building or whatever. It started off with well, I lost my prayer beads, but then I I had my period. We left the reception hall, and I think that's the first time I ever saw my father cry when he was saying goodbye to me. Yeah. And then we Danielson, Connecticut was, I think, the first stop, and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and they had at the time log cabins, so we accepted what the old lady showed us, and you opened the door and the toilet was right there, and then twin beds. From there, we went to Philadelphia, and I stopped at a cousin's house, and of course I got his toilet with the what I wore, for the. From there, we went to Washington, yeah. And on the way home from there, I stopped at my mother had asked this cousin, I called her my aunt, but she, with her age, she was my mother's cousin. And my mother asked her to talk to me about, not having children, about the birds and the bees. And she wanted to give me a diaphragm. Her used one. I said no, she told me I could take it to a doctor and have it fitted. Then, before I left there, I thought I had been bitten, and sleeping in this place. It was the shingles. So I come home with the shingles. So that was a honeymoon for you. Well, to be honest, when I was having Susan, I wanted a boy because of my husband, but I said, when I'm talking to the Lord, I'm saying to the Lord, if I can't have a boy, at least give me a brown-eyed girl. And I got the brown-eyed girl.
What were the girls like growing up?
They were good. I think Marie was used to smoke.
Who was I named after?
Huh?
Who was I named after?
Oh, it's Genevieve. Yeah, that was Genevieve that you were named after. Her middle name. Yeah.
And who was Susan named after?
My mother, Susan Jane.
Her first name.
Huh?
Her first name.
The one on the farm, Davis. Were you home when we had the hurricane? You were living at home then, because my in-laws, they lived down near the water, and they had to come out by boat, and they had to come and live with me until the tide went down again. That was in the 30s? Huh?
54.
Huh?
54. That's when Grandpa Allen had lost his boat.
Yeah. He had a cabin cruiser, a small one.
What was it called?
Huh?
What was it called?
Susan Marie, after my daughters. I know, I lived on Nash Road, and my children walked to Lincoln School. Had a poodle, Snoopy. Now what was Snowboy of Esperance. That was his, it was well, I was going by, I guess it was like a park or something, and they had, dogs picking out the 1, 2, and 3. Well, my dog got picked out 3, because there was only 3 dogs in it. That I remember.
What were some of the songs that you sang to us when we were little?
Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong, they are weak, but he is strong.
How about Two Little Dicky Birds?
Two little dicky birds sitting on a wall, one named Peter, the other named Paul. Fly away, Peter, fly away, Paul. Come back, Peter, come back, Paul. I didn't think I'd remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about that? Makes me feel good.
How about that?
I didn't think I'd remember either one of them.
How about the lions and the tigers?
The crocodiles, the snakes, the monkeys and the jackdaws, the birds and the whales, the wolves, the bears, the big kangaroo, all together in a...
No, all's alive and kicking.
Together in some kind of a zoo.
Bellevue.
Oh, Bellevue.
If you go to Bellevue.
Bellevue. There's something remembering all those names of animals.
Yeah.
Then we used to have a parade go by our house. But I was never into parades. I was, that fond of them.
Did the kids like to go watch the parades?
Oh yeah, Dad. Dad liked parades.
Yeah.
Take us down to Aunt Annie's house to watch the circus come in.
Yeah. Oh, at Christmas we used to go and see,
Mitch Miller.
what was his name?
Mitch Miller.
The first name?
Mitch Miller.
I can understand the last name, but I can't understand the first name. Mitch? Yeah.
Sing along.
Yeah, we used to go to that.
Go to the Common. Go sliding down the hill.
Oh, yeah.
What was his favorite home-cooked meal that you would make?
I don't know.
He would make. I was just gonna say.
He would make? Was
Dad
your
liked to
husband the cook?
No. No, if I was sick, he'd go and get me coffee ice cream with like a sundae, pineapple and banana, but I'm allergic to bananas. And you know what I used to make was the deviled eggs. Yeah, they liked my deviled eggs. Star Store, wings. What was the other one on the corner?
Cherries.
Cherries. Salt marshes. No, I think the Star Store was they had a restaurant in there, and then there was a furniture store across the street.
Keystone.
Huh?
Keystone, the Kavanaughs.
Yeah. Kennedy was assassinated. Yeah.
What was that like?
It was, I mean, people were all upset, you know.
How did you feel?
Well, I felt bad about it, yeah. I liked him, you know. I thought he was, well, of course he was good looking, and that I didn't have to depend on my children. I wish I could solve these earthquakes and, you know, the water, you know, that's been damaging so many, taking so many lives, you know, but nobody can stop that, only God. Wish I had my husband. Well, he was good in every way, you know. I had no complaints about my husband. Yeah. Golfing, I miss golfing with him, yeah, because I could never get anybody to, you know, pair up with me. Oh yeah, and I fell out of the golf cart. He made a quick turn. We were watching a tournament. I don't know who was golfing that we were watching.
When we went to Boston, he and Uncle Bunny came out of Filene's basement with yellow jackets.
Oh. Yeah, they both had yellow jackets on. And, your father didn't like yellow.
No.
So whenever I see a yellow house or a yellow car, it reminds me, you know, that he didn't like the color. I'd give my daughters a nice chunk of it. Well, what do I do now? You know, what use, like, I've got my house up for sale, and I've already got their name on a good-sized chunk of it, each one of them. And then my grandchildren will get some, and my great-grandchildren. So I'll be glad if I just pay the expenses, and because I don't need it. Pull this up. Well, up to my last trip to the casino, I enjoy once a month, you know, go there. But the last trip was a horrible one. It was another casino that I wasn't used to, because the one we were going to, the room was small enough for me to find her if we separated. Oh, I like to be with my daughters. And
Do you like scratch tickets?
oh, yeah, well, I've limited myself to one a day. I've got a good family. You know, I don't have anybody in the family that's, you know, a problem, or, you know, they belong to me. I started it in the beginning to have my children and them to have children. So evidently I'm responsible for all of them. Well, the thing is, I don't see them that often, you know, because they're not right, you know, near me. And with me not being able to drive and, you know, have a car and drive, it's not that I can't afford a car, but at my age, I don't want to take a chance. See, I've got 4 grandchildren, 10 great-grandchildren, and is it 2 or 4 two great-great-grandchildren. Oh, so they're all you know, good young men and women, children. I don't have any complaints about any of them. The thing was, I always said that to, like as a joke, and they know it, that it's a joke when I call them my favorite. That's her.
Who's your favorite grandson?
Well, I only have one, so he's gonna be my favorite.
What would you like your children and your grandchildren to remember about you?
That I loved them. And hoped that they would always be good, not get into any trouble or